My journey of self-healing and reparenting myself. Healing your inner self. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne. I've often heard about healing your inner child, and I just prefer to call it healing your inner self. And so a friend brought it to my attention the other day about how he was reparenting himself. And I remember saying that to myself many, many years ago, that I kind of needed to reparent myself. I had a wonderful mother, and yet my childhood was challenging and difficult for a lot of different reasons. And so I missed out on a lot of very, very important milestones in my childhood and teenage years. And so later, when I was probably in my early 20s, I began the journey of self-healing. And everyone does it differently, and I'm just sharing with you how I did it. I don't give suggestions and I don't give advice. I am here to inspire others to find their own way in life, to lead their own best life. And so how I do it may be very different than how you do it. And so what I decided to do was I decided to start to reparent myself, but I really didn't know how. And this is back in the 70s and early 80s when self-help books were just starting to come around, motivational books and inspirational books. Up until that point, I had to wing it on my own, and I used to write little scribble notes of wisdom every day on notepads. And so eventually I started reading every book that I could find on the market. I used to go and get every paperback, motivational, inspirational, self-help book. And I always tell people I read every one of those books that were put out over probably a period of about 15 years. I remember I was dating a guy, and he came into my apartment, and I had hid all of my books in my bedroom and in my bathroom. But for some reason, he needed to use my bathroom, and he did. And he saw all of these motivational books. And I was so embarrassed. I was really, really embarrassed because I didn't want anyone to know my secret, that I read all these motivational and inspirational books. And I guess I wanted them to think it all came so natural, which it does come natural for me. I was always an inspirational, motivational child, had wisdom coming to me and flowing into me, and I would write it down. It just happened to be in my 20s that I began to read other sources besides my own. And I began the journey of reparenting. I began the journey of self-healing. And I began to believe that I could go back and heal parts of me that had never been completed. So I remember at one point I moved to Newport Beach, and I moved on the beach, and I had a couple different roommates, and we had so much fun together. I was like being a teenager again, and we would roller skate on the boardwalk, and I would ride my fluffy bicycle with a fluffy seat all along the beach. And I got to kind of be young again. Even though I was in my 20s and was young, I got to kind of go back and relive a part of me that had not been complete. Fast forward many years later, I took my 3 small children to visit my father, who was then 84 before he passed. And I noticed that he had all these little wind-up toys, these little jumping frogs and parrots and, just all kinds of little toys around. And he loved them, and my kids, of course, loved them. And I got to thinking about, my father had never had a childhood to speak of because he grew up in the Great Depression and they were extremely poor, and he had no toys. And so at age 84, without probably really even knowing it, he was reliving a part and completing a part of his childhood that he had never completed. And so he brought in all these little toys, wind-up toys, and he just loved them. And that was emotionally completing a part of him that had not been completed. And so when I married my husband, years later, we must have went to every kind of party, and I called them proms. They really weren't proms, but I called them, they were a lot of formal occasions. And so during that time, in those formal occasions, it was absolutely magnificent. I got to relive a part of my life that I had not really completed. And so by us going to all these wonderful formal occasions, it sort of made up for what I had missed along the way. And so what I'm saying is that I believe for me personally, I was able to go back and fill in the spaces that were empty and blank and complete that part of my life. Even though I technically knew whatever age I was at the time, I think sometimes our emotions don't always know. And so we can kind of fill it up in the right way. And so that's what I did. I went back and I did self-healing and self-parenting. And it took years. It took years for me to feel that I was where I wanted to be in my life. And so then I married my husband, and it's been a wonderful journey. And when my kids were babies and small children, I used to sit down on the floor with them and play all the little baby games with them, and I would watch the TV with them, all the little kids shows. And in many ways, it was sort of reliving a part of my childhood that hadn't been maybe fully complete. And so through them, I was able to enjoy being a mom and raising my children. At the same time, I was able to, have fun and enjoy their childhood. And in a sense, it healed me in the process. And so, I think that we can heal in so many ways. And often we can heal by helping others. And so as a mom, I was raising my children. At the same time, it was completing a part of me like my father completed with his little wind-up toys. And so I do believe that to some degree we can go, or maybe even to a larger complete degree, we can go back and fill in the blanks. And I believe that we have like these tanks in our life that need to be filled up. The love tank and the financial tank and the relationship tank and the career tank. And sometimes some of them are low. And so sometimes we got to go over there and invest a little bit more in one of those tanks. And then when that gets filled up, we go over and we invest in another one. And ultimately, we want all of our tanks filled up so that we can be of service to other people and help them fill up their tanks as well. So that is my journey on self-healing and self-parenting and reparenting myself. And like I said, I don't give advice, I don't give suggestions, but it's just sharing with you how I did it for me. From my house to yours, may God bless you, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.